we almost went bankrupt and we had $400 in the account. We thought that's it. We had $30K worth of expenses and just finding a way to keep going. And then now knowing 12 months later, our event was sold out. It ran well. You just got to manifest and plan. Like you were saying, you can't just say you want it. You have to plan for it. You have to break down how you're going to achieve it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy, and today I'm joined once again with the beautiful Elli. Welcome to the show, Elli. How are you going?
Today is such a good day. Even though I didn't sleep last night, I was buzzing with the biggest excitement. So my client had the most incredible win for the month of April. So April, obviously, this April in particular this year, we've had all the public holidays. We have a lot of staff members would have taken full advantage of that time off in between, obviously. And I get a message from my client last night, and don't ask me why she messages me on the 29th of April, like a day before the last day. Like how she didn't tell me this earlier, I don't know. Maybe she was holidaying herself, but she messages me and she says, we're 3K off making 100K.
That's insane.
And jaw dropping, right? Because 100K in the month of April, most beauty business owners would be like, how the hell did you do that? And as much as I am shocked, I'm 50% heck yeah, because we strategically planned for this at the end of last year when we did our annual marketing calendar, which is something we've already discussed before. And it just goes to show how damn powerful these annual marketing calendars are and this business owner, she is so invested in her business. She knows her stuff. She knows her clients. She knows what her clients want. So when we were building out the marketing calendar for the month of April and the specific promo, she knew exactly what was going to attract her clientele. And obviously between us, value stacking in amongst that promo, she has been this successful. I think I'm still shocked though, because she went from, I think our goal was 79,000 for this month. So to go that far over, and the year before, I think it was what was it actually? Let me have a quick look because I want to the figures are pretty full on, right? So
while you're looking, quick question. How many team members does she have?
5.
And what niche is she in? What
Skin.
services?
Skin.
Yeah, amazing.
So April 24 was 72,000. The goal was 87,000 and they've ended on 100. And the day's not over yet. So who knows what it might be, right?
An update, did she hit 110? Did she magically hit 200? We'll never know. No.
We'll have to regroup on the next one. But I was just so, my brain last night just could not help but keep running over how important the annual marketing calendar is for months like that. And being strategic with those months so that you aren't in a shortfall because you've got staff that have stepped away and school holidays as well. So if you've got mum as staff members, who's to say that all of a sudden their babysitter falls through? There's so many things. Anyway, I've gone on a tangent here, but best freaking day ever because when my client wins like that, I feel all the win in me too. How are you?
100K must be the magic number right now because obviously I was going down to Albany to run the event. So within the 2 weeks of school holidays, we made, I think it was about $107,000 in 2 weeks, which is insane. And I think for us, really reflecting back on this time last year, we almost went bankrupt and we had $400 in the account. We thought that's it. We had $30K worth of expenses and, what we've been through, the tears, just finding a way to keep going. And then now knowing 12 months later, we can pull something like this off is incredible. Our event was sold out. It ran well. We turned over just over 12K on the day, plus the ticket sales that I sold, which is another $3,000. So it's about a 15K day. We got the bucking bull out. We had a band in, and one of the really interesting things that I learned from this experience was how hard you work for your money, right? Now, what I realized is running this event is exciting because, you've got people coming in, it's ticketed, it's exclusive, you've got the bucking bull out, you've got, a live band and everything. To be honest with you, the live band sucked. I didn't even think they could sing in tune. Our manager that we've now let go of, he organized that, and just there's a couple things where we were like, oh, this was not it. And so you're paying about $750 for the band plus GST plus the stage. So that was about $1,000. Then you've got to pay for security for an event. So all of a sudden we've got 4 hours, 75 an hour plus GST. Then you've got all of your staff. And I guess one of the great things was we had enough staff. We had, I think, 8 or 9 on the night running it. So we could really see what the venue's like at full capacity, and then how many staff we do need, what worked well, what didn't. And then we had the bucking bull running as well, which was really exciting, but it didn't take off as much as we wanted to because people were scared. They didn't want to fall off in front of people. They didn't want to look like an idiot. And then I think after they had a few drinks and there were people going on first, then they gained the confidence towards the end of the night. So when we look at how much money we made for the amount of effort that we put in and the amount of staff required, like even little things, Nick and I had to be on the front door to get all the people in. If you're just running a normal day, you just line up at the counter. So that's already 2 people's wages that you can eliminate. So there's just so many different moving parts and lessons that came from that. But now we're playing with big dollars. Like it's really exciting to have money coming in and then being able to go, where are we investing in the business? So we've got simulators coming in. We had them, as one of our previous businesses we launched in 2007. And that was like a $500,000 project that almost sent us bankrupt back then. We've had these racing car driving games. They move on motion platforms. They've been out for like years, not working. And we finally got $30,000 to put towards them, get all the simulators working again, get the software codes. And so launching that will potentially bring in, another $100,000 into the business. So it's just like to be in this position of seeing how you can scale a business and having the right team on board and then looking at the different revenue streams that come in. That's been really exciting and fulfilling and something that I probably haven't been able to do with beauty, because beauty is just services and products. And then if you go down like training, education, but bowling's like running 5 businesses within the one.
Yeah.
And my little ADHD brain's like, yes, let's do it all.
I can imagine.
But yeah.
So moral of the story is 100K is happening for the month of April.
Yeah, 100%. You just got to manifest and plan. Like you were saying, you can't just say you want it. You have to plan for it. You have to break down how you're going to achieve it. And I think when you say 100K, that sounds like so much money. But then when you break it down, it's like, okay, we've got 4 weeks. It's 25K a week. And then we go, okay, how many team members do we have? We have 5 team members. That's 5K per team member. And then you break it down further and go, well, how many of this facial, how many of these products? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we could do that. We only just have to sell 3 more of this service and then 5 more of this product, and we're all going to reach that. It's just people think it's really overwhelming because they look at the big number, but they don't look at what's the
how to break it down.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, if anyone wants to book in for a marketing calendar meeting, I'm your gal.
I recommend.
All right. I was thinking today, Sammy, that we should put it out there to our followers, 2 truths and a lie, and see who really knows us well.
I don't think I'm going to be any good at playing this game because I've given all my secrets away. I've been too vulnerable. I've shared all my weird quirks and adventures. I'm going to have to really think about a lie here. But I reckon yours will be really interesting. Have you already thought of yours, or do I have to come up with this on the spot?
I did. I thought of it at 2 a.m. this morning when I couldn't sleep, and I figured I better not message you at that time. So I am prepared. So I will put it to the people first while your little brain's ticking over, and we'll see what they have to say. All right. All right. Sammy and I today are going through 2 truths and a lie. We're recording right now. And I'm going to put it to you, my 2 truths and a lie, and I want you to tell me what you think it's going to be. So I have been hit at 100K stationary on the M1 and I walked away. I have purchased 3 brand new cars straight off the showroom floor, and I have never broken a bone. Tell me which one you think it is. All right. Have you thought of yours?
Yep. I've got one. Okay, I can do this.
All right,
All
you
right, let me just film mine. All right, guys. Today, Ellie and I are filming a podcast episode. We're doing 2 truths and a lie, and I need you to guess which one I'm lying about. All right, here they are. So number 1 is I was once detained at a Thailand airport for trying to take Dexies into the country.
Mm-hmm.
I got hit by a car by the teacher the day before my school ball.
Yeah.
And I once put protective film on a $5 million watch. Which one's the truth and which one's the lie?
You're wild. They're all wild, Sammy.
I'm not basic. Gosh, I'm not living a vanilla life. If I were a cocktail, I would be a spicy margarita.
I'd just be a salty one. No. All right.
Like a mug.
Well, let's talk business and personal business today, and we will regroup on what the public says at the end of the podcast.
Sounds good. I reckon instead of having kind of scripted questions or a topic, it would be really cool to ask each other some questions so we can have a break from trying to be so educational and like formal, you know? And
shouldn't have worn my blazer then. Jesus.
I know. Plan ahead, gosh. But I think it would be fun to just show the other side of us, dive a bit deeper into some random things that have happened in business and what we get up to outside of business. How do you feel about that?
I feel fabulous.
All right, let's go. So I want to know, you've obviously had some time in beauty like myself. What's the most unhinged thing a client or staff member has ever said to you?
Oh, okay. I know straight off the tee it comes to my head. I don't know if I've talked about this in a podcast before, but I worked with this girl once. We were co-managing, and she was not built out to be a team leader in the sense that showing up every day at 150% for her team. And she asked me, how do you wake up every day so happy at work? And I remember being dumbfounded by the question. Like, did nobody teach you that you have to leave your shit at the front door, like when you come to work? Because, I mean, we've all got stuff going on in our life, but especially as a team leader, you can't come into work carrying that shit in the front door. Like, your staff and your team members do not need to experience that. So that's probably that's the first one that pops in my head, whether it's totally unhinged or not. I just think it was a wild question for someone to ask me.
I think it's really hard. If you are in a management or leadership position, you need to do some serious personal development and mindset work, because if you don't work on yourself, then you're just going to traumatize the whole team. They're going to resent you. They're going to resent coming to work. All the employees leave. It's detrimental to the business. Like, you can't be bringing that into the business. You need to work on yourself. Like, go to therapy, please. I saw this quote the other day and it was like, the people that don't go to therapy are the reason why people are in therapy.
Oh my goodness. That is too good. All right, my turn. What is the dumbest decision you made early on in business that you would never admit on Instagram?
Dumbest decision in business. I don't know if it's dumbest decision. I have a bad thing that happened that comes to mind. When I first did my lash training, I accidentally, on my boyfriend at the time's brother's girlfriend, second or third lash model in, sent her to hospital and gave her a chemical burn on her eye.
Oh,
I never done that publicly, apart from maybe and her. So I didn't have good training, and I wasn't even taught how to do a refill or anything. And I just wasn't really confident. I thought I put the iPads on properly. The iPads weren't on properly. And then I don't know, I must have just put a lash with too much glue into her eye and not onto the lash and then it burned her eye, and then the iPad had like dug into her eye. It got infected. She had to go to hospital, get a special cream. She's all good now. But
Thank God. So nobody lost their eyeball.
No, but like honestly, that experience traumatized me. I was at the point where I was like, I don't think I'm built for beauty. I don't think I can do this. And then I think retrospectively looking back now, that's why I do believe as being in beauty industry leaders and coaching and stuff, like stick at what you're good at. I'm good at business, probably not lashes as much, clearly, but that was beginner, early stages, you make mistakes. But the more important thing I now worry about is what happens when you've got these people who, you know, are 6 to 12 months into the industry. They go, I want to become a trainer. You know, they start training and they're not teaching you skills or how to actually apply those skills when things go wrong and do the troubleshooting side. And I think with the actual training that's out there, people are doing like a 1-day course or 4 hours and then, you know, here's your certificate and you're going off and you're so underqualified and underprepared. So that's my biggest mistake I probably made early on, not necessarily in business, but just in beauty. And that's something that I just always felt really ashamed of. But I learnt to never ever do that again. And I went and sought more training and I did shadowing a bit. So I guess a silver lining, it made me a better lash tech. But yeah.
That's a wild one. And I think as well, even if you have been in the industry for some time, sometimes mistakes like that can still happen. Like I've had a therapist who has lasered for many years, and we always had a lathe machine and a YAG machine.
What's a YAG machine?
So the lathe is for skin type, like lighter skin types, and the YAG's for darker skin types, right?
Okay.
There's also a cannula machine that does both in the same machine.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be mindful to switch it over if you get a different skin type, right? So there's like light skin, dark skin, and then there's a machine that does both. And this therapist has been doing it for years. She comes out of a treatment for a light skin client. A dark skin client comes in, but she didn't switch the machine over. Started her laser treatment, 1 pulse, because it's designed obviously for the Fitzpatrick scale of like 1 to 3. And then anything above that, you go into the YAG for. If she ran it at a certain amount of joules, like you'll pop and the skin will burn instantly. And, you know, she'd been in the industry for years and it was just that one simple mistake. And look, thank God it was just one kind of pulse on the skin. And it wasn't like she continued going, but she knew instantly. And you know, that was years of experience. And I feel like sometimes at the start, things will happen. And then even when things get switched up or changed, it's just as easy to have that kind of, you know, if we want to call it like dumb moments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You want to think that they don't happen often. Like if they're happening a fair bit, then that's a big red flag. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to try hold yourself to the highest standard and show up the best you can, but also accept that we are human. We make mistakes. Like, fuck, I have some people who just love, like Nick, he loves to pick out anytime I have a spelling mistake. And I got my nails done for the branding shoot, could barely type, and I spelt yourself wrong with like a at the start. And then him, my mum and my grandma pick up every spelling mistake. And I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I am spelling perfectly. And now you want to tear me down? Like, I'm not going to delete that whole story set and redo it. It is what it is.
Don't tell him to look at mine then, because I'm the worst. I'm the absolute worst. And we all know this.
Ellie, what's one thing you wish beauty business owners would stop pretending to do?
Act like they know it all.
What do you mean? Dive a little bit deeper.
So I suppose this kind of ties in with a good conversation that we can have here about knowing when to invest in somebody in your business. So when we go into beauty, most of the time, and we've said this before in a nutshell, you come out of college, you do your training, you're really good, you get some clients, you decide I've got too many clients, you open up a salon, holy macaroni, now I need more staff. And then you hire staff and then you're kind of like at full capacity. And that's obviously where I come in and I assist people. It's knowing when you're going to actually need that help and not acting like you know it all. And the business owners that are succeeding are the ones that I think have coaches, consultants, people in their business who thrive and are passionate about specific areas of the business that they can assist them to grow in. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I know personally, I used to feel like I had to know it all, even in coaching. Like I felt like I needed to know every single answer. And, you know, as time's gone on, I'm like, there's some beauty in having a referral network, like being able to go, hey, go to Ellie if you need leadership help. Hey, go to this accountant if you want a good accountant. You know, I think back then it was almost like an ego thing of like, I didn't want to look like I was failing, or, you know, I didn't want other people to judge me because I'm going out and running this business. Like I should know it all. And I'm like, I don't know half of it, but I pay the best people who do know it and do it every day. And that's why you get good results, because you're tapping into years of expertise and experience that took a lot of time to gain through trial and error and training and knowledge and building skills. It's like you can't expect to know it all. It's unrealistic.
I think it's overwhelming when you are picking someone like that. Like when I decided to work with you, I had started the Beauty Business Society. I knew what I wanted to help people with. I knew what I wanted to give to people. And it got to a certain point where for me to take the next step in business, I had to get help. And it was scary, right? Because like I didn't have a whole lot of money to invest in someone. And I think going through that process of finding that person and finding the value in that person, once you have that, and like, look, we've been working together now for
like 6 months.
I feel like it's longer.
Time flies when you're fun.
And every single time we have a session or I'm like pushed back by, I don't know, it could be accounting information. It could be all the things that I don't know that you do know. You are there, and the value that I put in your pocket to help me, I have never questioned. And that's when you've got a really good person, I think, in your business assisting you and you find the value in them. Like I often say to my business owners, you could search and search and search for someone who has the knowledge that I have, or the years behind me, or the confidence, or the resources that I have, and hire them and pay them $80,000 a year, let's just say. Or you could have me in your business and have that trust and have that relationship at not $80,000 a year.
So true. I think now working with bigger team and bigger numbers coming through to be able to hire, there's also that mindset of like, do I learn to do this myself? Do I hire an expert or contractor? Or do I actually get an employee on board and in the business full time? And I think for me, VA has been incredible, such an asset to have with like admin tasks, social media graphics, managing the podcast in the back end, working with my podcast agency. Like I've loved having my VA. She's there for everything. And then now hiring an OBM, I can just choose what projects I want to build out and then have that on a contractual basis. But if I'm looking at the next step of scaling and growing, it would be hiring another coach, or it would be hiring someone to do more marketing in-house or sales. And so I think when I look at that for a coaching perspective, that makes sense. But then if you're looking at a beauty salon, one of the hard ones is going, do I hire someone to do marketing in-house because they're there, they can take the content, they can learn the strategy, you know, they're solely dedicated to your brand? Or do you hire the social media marketing agency that you're paying, you know, $2,000 to $5,000 a month for, and you still have to take all the content, send it off, there's proofs going back and forth. And so I think like some things you get really stuck between like, do I hire the expert or do I bring someone in-house and train them? And I think there's no right answer, but one thing that has really worked well for me through a lot of trial and error and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars would be hire the expert to build it out and show you how to do it. And then once you understand it, you can bring someone else in. That system, that process is already set up, and then get, you know, a team member, a VA, someone to actually implement it ongoing for you.
Yes. All right, Sammy, my question to you is, what's something that you invested in? It was totally overhyped and underdelivered.
I think it has to be when I joined this big group coaching program, Mastermind. It was 33,000 US dollars, which is 50,000 Australian dollars. And I was 20 at the time. I didn't have the money to pay in full, so I went on a payment plan. I was paying 2,500 USD, which ended up being, it could be 2,900, it could be 3,400, depending on the exchange rate. And so there was no consistency in what I was paying. And it was quite scary because it was obviously a big overhead for me at the time. And then on top of that, I also had a one-on-one coach who was an automation specialist, supposedly, and I didn't do my research into him. He was referred by someone who I then found out was his partner at the time, and he did the one-on-one calls with me weekly, but then he didn't actually build out any landing pages, sales funnels, email automations, like all the stuff that he was meant to deliver, he didn't deliver. And so on top of that, 2,500 USD, I was paying him 2,500 Australian. So each month I was pretty much investing/spending 5 to 6 grand on business coaches because I didn't believe in myself and I thought I needed all the support and help. And number one, the one-on-one coach I had, he wasn't delivering anything that he had promised in the contract. I tried to contest it. He had paid out a $15,000 refund to one lady and then another $7,500 refund to another one. So by the time I got to my refund, he had no money left, and he started threatening me and saying if I tried to take it to court, like it wouldn't stand up and that I would be liable for the cost. Like he was just trying to bully me because I was younger and female. And then I had the big mastermind that I was in, and it was honestly like a cult because everyone is trying to become a coach. And I think what I didn't like about these big group coaching programs is that they are a pyramid scheme. It's coaches coaching coaches to become coaches. So the person at the top is coaching business coaches, health coaches, how to then coach people. And it just becomes this big frenzy of everyone kind of having these incestuous relationships in the coaching world where they're just trading their money for another program and they're all recycling the same money. And so, I was quite naive about that. And I saw this coaching program. I flew to Sydney. I went to the 3-day event, and just learning their strategy of what they would do. So, they would go get to these events, sit at the front, pay to get the photo with a celebrity. That's your credibility. Now you want to do this, you want to say these types of things. You learn all the scripts. And then, the big red flag for me was when they were telling people to get a credit card out, or if they had a house deposit and they were about to buy a home, like, put that money, you have the money clearly, put it into the coaching program, you'll make it back tenfold. And so I was in this program where in that big mastermind, or whatever you want to call it, it was 100K in 100 days. And, you had to do all these different things. You had to do a minute of you pitching your offer into a group chat. You had to do 30 seconds daily gratitude video. You had to message 30 people a day. You had to put up a post it was crazy, all the rules of this. And if you missed out on one of those things, you had to pay $1,000 as a fee, as like a penalty fee. I was chatting with a salon owner the other day who said, Sammy, I feel like I'm constantly working, but nothing's actually working. She was posting daily, reels, stories, replying to DMs between clients. Her team looked to her for everything, and she still lay in bed at night wondering if next week's bookings would cover the bills. Sound familiar? That's exactly why I created Booked, Banked and In Demand. It's the system I wish I had when I was burnt out, overwhelmed, and wondering if all this effort was ever going to pay off. And it's now helped over 300 beauty business owners get off the income roller coaster and actually grow, filling their books, boosting their income, and finally building a business that gives back instead of draining them. Inside, I'll show you how to attract clients with content that actually converts, use AI and done-for-you scripts to save 20 plus hours a week, hire your first VA and delegate the entire back end of your business, and build a system that keeps your business booked without burning you out. So if you've been craving clarity, clients, cash flow, and calm, this is your shortcut. Click the link in the show notes and join Booked, Banked and In Demand now. Let's build a beauty business that doesn't run you into the ground. And so I was fully sucked into this. I didn't know how to get out. I started freaking out because I was like, there's so much money coming out here and I don't know how to pull out of the contract. You know, there was no cancellation clause. And then just to really top it off, obviously some people here may have followed me from the start of my journey. We were running the beauty pageant. That's how I actually met Lily. And Lily, the lady that we ran the beauty pageant with, her cousin was the guy that owned this coaching program, and she paid him 10,000 USD to be in it. He convinced her. She's like, I want to run a pageant. And he doesn't even teach how to run a pageant. He doesn't even teach any of those business skills. It's all about being a coach and doing these things. Took her money. And then when she got into the program, she's like, this isn't any of the stuff that you said you'd support me with. Like, it's not actually, you know, applicable to what I'm doing. And then he said, oh, we can just give you, you know, 50% credit to go to another coaching program. So that was probably the dark side of, you know, where I came from in the coaching world, and I hated it. And I still don't like getting called a business coach. That's why I love the word consultant, because you're strategizing, you're advising, you're not just mindset coaching. You're not just here to go, I want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, chuck everyone in this group coaching program, do one weekly call, give it 2 minutes each. And, you know, so I think that was probably the worst investment I made, but the best one in teaching me how I want to run a business.
I was going to say, it's always the things that we invest in or the situations that we come from that make us better at what we do, because we know exactly what we don't want to be.
Oh, 100%. And like at the same time, I don't think I'm a perfect coach. I've definitely had like a couple nightmare clients where I probably didn't handle it the best way I could have. You know, I had one client recently, she signed up with me after doing a podcast episode, and, you know, halfway through the podcast episode, I'm like, she's claiming all these things, like this stuff isn't adding up. And then we did a one-on-one session, and then I found out that she was lying about a lot of things. Things weren't adding up, taking all cash, not claiming GST, then advising about, you know, here's some of the repercussions you need to be aware of. And then, you know, expecting to put one thing up and make all this money, and it doesn't happen like that. And then, you know, just saying we're not a good fit. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And then, you know, closing that off. It's just kind of a hard one, because sometimes I look at the situations of like, where did I get myself into where I would have appreciated someone to have just said, you know what, this isn't working. Like, just walk away, not having to do these hectic, you're locked into this for life kind of contract. You're stuck in it. You resent them. Money's going out. They're calling up the bank. It gets messy. And so I think, you know, there's been times where I'm like, not everyone is going to be the right fit for you, and you're not going to be the right fit for everything else. And so now I ask a lot more questions and I do a lot more research when I'm making bigger investments in my business, but also with clients.
Yeah.
I've had to do a lot more screening, because when you're in this world of training, education, coaching, consulting, usually most people are reactive rather than proactive. And so they're at a point where they're breaking in their life, in their career. So let's say you're a, you know, skin therapist or trainer, or you're doing brows, or, you know, something like that. Someone's hating their job. They want to do your course, quit, and then start making $100,000. You know, it's unrealistic, not unachievable, but it's just like the success rate of doing that in a short period of time, it's not going to happen within the next 2 months. And so they're putting that pressure on you. And you've also got to have, you know, a pre-screening process saying, what are your expectations around this? How are we going to achieve this goal? This is the timeline. We could achieve it sooner. We could achieve it later. And like laying out those kind of ground rules first before you decide to commit and take someone on. Otherwise, you might end up with those people who just want magic to happen overnight. It's like someone having black hair and wanting to go platinum blonde tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen.
And I think as well, those pre-screening questions before you do work with someone is for your gut instinct as well. Like, do you actually vibe with this person? Like, are you going to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't get that? Or how do I actually do that? Or why isn't this working? Are you going to be in a place where you're comfortable to have them tell you that if you continue to do this, you're not going to be successful, or you're going to need to do these things? I know a lot of my clients, when I first come on board with them, I go through the stages that we need to work on before I even touch base with their team so that they know where they're at, where their business is at, where they want to go, all those things. And 50% of them, including my most successful businesses now, were so overwhelmed at the start, but thankful for the relationship that we had, and that we had the ability to be completely transparent and honest when things were going like that. So they didn't throw the towel in. I'd built that rapport with them, and you just knew in your gut that you were going to work with them. Whereas if you just say, oh, yep, I'll take you on, I love that. Like, for you as well, not just for them, but for you as well. Because the last thing you want to do is take someone on and not be able to deliver to them or deliver for them because they're not ready for it.
So true. Even with beauty services, when someone's, been using box dye and now they want to go for a certain color, or they want oils, or, you can see that they've been chewing their nails, they're not in a healthy state, they need to grow out, or they've just had a lash lift and they want lash extensions the next day. Like, there's so many different scenarios where that same problem occurs. And I think it almost comes to a point of you having trust in yourself and stepping into that authority to say, here's what I suggest for you. And based on what you've already done, here's what could happen if we try rush the process. And here's what can happen if we actually handle it in a strategic way. And being able to give them the information to make that informed decision, I think you'll see, like, how are they reacting or responding? Is this going to be someone who is going to become a headache in the future, or is it someone who is committed and they understand? Because if you can't understand each other, then you can't communicate. Like you're saying, you won't talk about problems as they come up. It's just really hard. And I talk about this as well with my clients and doing the profitable pricing. If you have team members and you've been paying them too much on a commission basis and your prices are way too cheap, and trying to navigate and have that conversation, like, the longer you hold off having that conversation, the worse it gets for you, and the more resentment you start to build and the more problems that come up. And I think that, when you said earlier, like, what's one of the dumbest decisions you've made early in business, it's probably waiting for the right time, or procrastinating and, like, holding off doing the uncomfortable, whether that was, leaving beauty because my scoliosis was literally putting me in a point where I couldn't work anymore. Or
hey, that would have been a good two truths and a lie. Like, I want
everyone knows I have scoliosis.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question to talk about.
So, Ellie, what's one of the hardest decisions that you've had to make in business?
Just in, like, the Beauty Business Society, or over all the years?
Let's go over all the years. Like, obviously you've worked in different businesses, you've been in that management role. What's been one of the hardest challenges for you?
I think before I got the personality training that I went through, it would have been approaching team members about difficult conversations. Because I always wanted the best for my team members and invested my time in them. And for the majority, just because of who I am as a person, and that I do genuinely love the people that I work with, or the teams that I had, there's always one person in the team that you're not going to gel with as much as others. And I think back in the day, it probably was the most challenging times were when I had to approach the team member that I wasn't as tight with about situations that were uncomfortable. Obviously, as you grow and as you become or have more knowledge, especially around the personality thing, you can have the conversation a little bit easier. But in the industry, for the most of the time, they're quite young girls and they don't have that skill set yet. So I remember one of the skills that I learned, and I say this to all my business owners now, is as close as you are with your staff members, always ask them how they would like their feedback. Has anyone ever asked you that?
How do you like your feedback? No, I don't think so. I haven't really worked for any other places other than family business. I've worked at Officeworks. They're very kind of corporate structure in the sense that you have your one performance review, they sit down and they're not asking you about how you're going. They're just asking, what's been going in the workplace, like what have you noticed? It's more like trying to figure out if there's gossip going around more than if there's actually, am I feeling supported? Am I growing in this, career role? But I don't think I really have.
I think it's so powerful when you actually ask someone how they would like to receive feedback, whether it be positive feedback or bad feedback, because I know when I was younger, accepting or swallowing bad feedback, if you were doing it to person with me, whatever was going on my face was not how I felt on the inside. And I wasn't very good I've never been good at showing how I'm really feeling. So I'll always play the hard card. Like, yep, cool.
Yep. Don't cry. Don't let them know you have any emotion. Like if I'm not sad, I can't feel sad. If I'm not happy, I can't get let down if things don't work out.
Yeah. But from their perspective, it was like, well, are you absorbing this? Are you accepting this? Do you have anything you want to say back to it? But in my head, I was just like, just take it and we'll digest that later. So, and I know a lot of over the years, I've asked this to staff members and they're like, oh no, definitely in person because I'd love to chat it out with you. Like I couldn't bear the thought of having to go home and think about it and have to write you a message or see you the next day. I can't handle that. Whereas I genuinely would prefer to get it in an email and, you read it certain ways and you might read it straight off the bat and be like, oh, okay then. And then 20 minutes later, you read it again. You're like, okay, maybe I was a little irrational. And then you read it again, you're like, yeah, I can see why they think that. But actually being able to digest that is a game changer for me. So challenging is approaching staff members about situations, but maybe not that you asked for a hot tip, but for anyone who's listening and is wondering how they might go about making that a bit more streamlined, I think when a staff member comes on, always ask them how they would like to receive their feedback. And you might find that when they do come full circle or you have to approach that, you're approaching in a manner that's going to best suit them individually so that you can get the best response out of them and move forward with an action plan.
I love that. I think that's so true as well because for me, I'm the exact same as you. Like I'll take it on and I'll have a very blank face and for some people, they get scared because they're like, I can't read her and I don't know what she's thinking. And for me, I'm like, all right, maybe there's some truth to that. I need to focus on this. All right, I'm taking it on. Cool.
And if your Botox kicks in, if your Botox has kicked in, you just look like resting bitch face. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think as well, when I've had clients in the past, there's probably been about 2 that we didn't gel because they didn't want someone to be honest and straight to the point. Whereas all my clients that I work really well with, they love how direct I am and here's what's not working. Have you considered this? Well, obviously this pattern is going to lead to this. What do you think needs to change? And for other people that can be, really confronting and it can, send them into kind of an anxious spiral of bad thoughts and everything. And I just kind of sit there and I'm like, look, it's not that you're a bad client. It's not that I'm a bad coach. It's just my style of how I approach things and how I communicate obviously doesn't work for you. And if you need someone to give you positive affirmations and hype you up and be fluffy, then there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just be real with each other and say we're probably not a good fit right now, and that's okay. But moving away from more the business stuff and a bit more about, both of us behind the scenes.
All right, Sammy, I'm going to hit you with one. So what's something your followers would never guess about your life growing up?
Ooh, I was not anything like I am today. I was big party gal, loved all the older boys' attention. I was the most known person in the country town I grew up in. And I used to be Facebook famous. So I had I'd get 2,000 likes on my profile picture. I'd have like hundreds of birthday posts from just all these random people. I would go to, these under 18 club events, and I'd be, doing illicit things. And for a while there, my family thought I was a lost cause. They wanted to send me off to a private school, and, I just was so naughty. Like, I just didn't have any direction. And I think, looking back now, a lot of the parents, I remember I got this message from one guy in my soccer team. I was the only girl in the soccer team. And, he said to me, Sammy, you need to stop doing drugs and hanging out with these people. It's ruining, your reputation and your personality. And I think back then.
Were you really doing drugs back then?
Yeah, I was 14 years old. I got into the nightclubs. I had a fake ID. I went to every music festival. I then was an influencer for a bit, and I got free tickets to everything. Like, my whole life was a lot of party back then. And I'm not proud of it, but gosh, I had some fun. And
that's why you're so driven now, because you're like, I've lived a whole other life before, guys. Like, I'm so here for this life.
Literally. But like, I look back now, and a lot of people my age are now just getting into that. Like, they leave home, they move to Perth, they go to uni, they get into partying, and then they drop out of uni, and then they're working a normal job. Whereas I went through all of that stage from about 13 to like 16, 17. And then I was over it. I was bored, but I think back then it was just an escape. I really hated high school. You couldn't pay me to go back to high school. I got bullied really badly. I did modeling, so everyone wanted to tear me down for that. Who does she think she is? Like, all this stuff. And I think for me, that's what drove me to be successful in business, because I had a deep need to prove everyone wrong that I can do this, and that I am smart, and that I'm not some, fucked up drug person from my youth, and I look at anyone else my age or stage now who gets to travel, to 3-4 countries a year, go interstate to host events or have fun. And I think back then I felt like I really I never fit in. And I think maybe that's the start of every entrepreneur story. Like, they were misunderstood, or, they didn't fit in with everyone else. But back then that was my escape. And I think over time my escape turned into business and entrepreneurship, and I became a lot more productive. But yeah, that's probably something about my childhood. I was a bit of a stoner back in the day. I didn't really, and actually talking about this is really, I would normally be shameful about it, but now that I've had my ADHD diagnosis, a lot of it makes so much more sense. So when you look at people who do drugs, usually they're doing it because they've either got some trauma or they're trying to suppress something. You know what I mean? And for me, my brain was running at 1,000,000 miles an hour constantly. And so if I, did drugs, I was so chill. I was calm. Like, finally all the thoughts would shut off in my head. And I think, back then it was just so much all the time. And then I didn't have a normal childhood. We had pressure of debt, businesses. I had a really abusive, toxic boyfriend at the time, and that was just my thing. But now I don't do drugs. Like, I barely drink. Like, I really don't enjoy drinking. You might see me with a cocktail, but that's it. And then I have an IBS attack on the toilet, and I'm like, why did I do that? But yeah, to get it out of your system early and learn those lessons and move on, I think that's been really powerful. And now, just understanding that that's probably what I was doing because I had ADHD. I didn't have medication. Not that I really take medication that often now, but I have it there if I need it. It's just learning a lot about myself through those experiences and seeing how far I've grown. That's been a wild journey. Lots of healing, lots of mindset coaching. You've got to do the work to get to the next level. That's for sure.
Yeah, you really have lived a whole other life. I'm shook. I'm shook.
Elli, last question for you before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
If your younger self saw you now, what would she be shocked by?
How confidently perceived you can hold a space in a room. I think when I was younger, even it's really funny because if I'm in a room of, let's say, 8 girls and they could be friends or acquaintances, so like they know me, I'll be the quietest one. I'm not even lying because I have this fear that I'm going to say something so dumb and everyone's just going to laugh at me. So the fact that I'm even doing this podcast, like I keep saying, I don't know if I should be talking publicly freely. Like, I don't know if this is something that should actually be out there, but we're rolling with it.
This is a safe space. You're fine. If anyone's going to judge you, like that's on them. Like,
yeah, listeners can't judge or leave it. I think she would be shocked at how much confidence she has now because, yeah, I was not public speaking at all. Like the idea of getting up in front of a room, oh my gosh, no chance. And I'm not up in front of a room of people, but when I go into businesses or I hold workshops with them and I'm standing there and I'm confident and people are like, wow, you're the most confident person I know and all these things, I think, gosh, who the hell are you talking about? Like, where? Where did she come from? But I suppose that also comes back to when you know your shit and you're owning it and you just want to pass on as much information as you can to better someone's life or their skill set or make them feel that confidence, you're going to give it to them. So, no, that's kind of in a nutshell for me. I think she'd just be proud of how confident I can be. Go me.
I think everyone needs that. Everyone needs to trust in themselves and learn to believe, not stop comparing. Like they need to stop comparing and doubting and thinking it's never going to be good enough or like, here's who I have to be like. It's like, just be you and be the best at being you and you'll attract the right people who appreciate you for being you.
And literally having that small circle of people that root for you so goddamn hard that you don't even care about anyone else. Like I must admit, like I do not sit on social media and scroll through all the other people in this industry and what they're doing. And I deliberately don't because if I do that, I know damn well I'm going to question everything I'm doing and whether or not it's actually good enough. So I just don't open up that door. And some people would say, oh, that's crazy because how do you know if like you're like missing the mark or you're off this or off that? I don't care. I actually just don't care. Maybe it's because I'm mid-30s and like your 30s are the best years, Sammy, just you wait. And all of a sudden you're just like, no fucks given. You're like, I'm done with this.
I think that's me now, to be honest. Like,
yeah, you have lived a whole other life. You and your drug life. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, you know what? Do you know how I knew I was entrepreneurial? When my drugs got confiscated off me, I said to Dad, wait, but can you give them back and I can sell them so I can get my money back?
Oh my God.
I was devastated. I was like, but seriously, like, I won't have it, but at least I could sell it and make money from it. Like tax-free dollars, might I add. No, I'm kidding.
That is so funny. I love that. What an ending to this podcast.
Judge me, don't judge me. I don't really care anymore. Do you know what the coolest thing I think you learn with gaining that confidence is? I can put myself out there. I can speak freely because now I accept myself. Back then, I did not accept myself. And I realize people's opinions of me are their own opinions and it's not my responsibility. Like if you don't like me, if you love me, like either way, it's not worth me stressing over or getting upset about or making it my whole identity. Like I had this news article go out about me. I didn't read any of the comments. I got Jade, my friend, to have a look through. And there were 853 comments on it. And everyone's, saying, her uni degree getting cancelled, like that doesn't happen, blah, blah, blah. You don't go to a restaurant, eat food and then expect the refund. And then there was, all these 50-year-old men apparently saying stuff about I'm only successful because I do OnlyFans. I was like, what? So people just make their judgment on you regardless. And I think you just got to do what you want to do. Like who cares? It doesn't matter because if you're showing up and giving it 100%, and just staying in your own lane, like who are other people to judge you for doing that or tear you down for doing that? Because, we're all just trying out here. Like the people who judge you the most or put you down the most are always the ones who are doing nothing with their life and they're fucking miserable. So only take advice, be inspired by people that you want to aspire to be like or you want to surround yourself with. Like, don't listen to the opinion of someone that you wouldn't go to advice for.
Spoken by Sammy, words of wisdom.
I'm going to put that in a quote on my Instagram. Andre, if you're listening to this, no, I'm kidding. Thank you so much if you've listened to this episode. I know it's a little bit of a different one, but please let us know. Send us a message if you did enjoy this type of content more. We obviously want to make this as valuable but also engaging as possible. I think Beauty Industry Leaders has the potential to be number one podcast in the whole beauty industry space, and Ellie and I are going to go on a journey with you to get there. So keep giving us your feedback. We're going to get more community involvement. We're going to keep taking it to the top. And
yes, you better check the socials. Let's see what people have said.
Oh my gosh, I have 33, 33, and 33. Like, everyone has voted equally on mine.
Oh my gosh, stop. Check mine.
You're going to have to check yours
because
I think it's on your story.
All right, let's have a quick look here. We have, 50%. I'm 50-50. So 100 people, 50 hit at 100K stationary and 50 never broken a bone. So do you think they're actually going through what they think is the lie?
Yeah, they'd be clicking the lie.
All right, what do you think my lie is?
Well, if you got hit by a car, you would have probably broken a bone, but then you said you walked away unscathed. And 3 cars from the showroom floor. I don't feel like you would buy brand new cars. Like, I'm not judging, but I feel like
I have. I bought 2 brand new cars straight off the showroom floor.
Only 2, not 3.
Yeah, only 2.
Oh so
my
that's
God.
Your lie?
That's my lie, yeah.
So you did get hit by a car and you did break your arm.
I actually stuffed up. I have never broken.
You did 2 lies and a truth.
I did 2 lies and a truth. Guys, we're blaming this on the baby brain, okay? We are blaming this on the baby brain. What an idiot. All right. So yours was
I got detained at a Thailand airport for Dexies, got hit by a car by my teacher the day before my ball, and then I've also put protective film on a $5 million watch.
Okay, so I know you've done the watches because I was just like, sorry, that is the most random thing ever, but yay for however much money you made from that. Obviously, the OnlyFans guy got mixed up. It's just some watch applications. Hit by the car by the teacher. I feel like I'd need more details, but let's not dive into it. And Dexies. Now that I know your drug story, I don't know if that's the truth. Although, so I'm going to go with the lie being the Dexies at Thailand airport.
Yes, you're correct. I actually found out about Dexies being illegal and you can go to jail the day before I flew out to Thailand. So I was at the Australian airport and I wasn't sure. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, the day before, the day of me flying there. So I was at the Australian airport and, you know, when they do those like random like bomb searches?
Yeah.
I never get pulled across for them, but for some reason
I always do.
And they decided to pull me across and then they like cleared me for everything, but they asked me like, what are these? And then they looked on it, they said, Dexy, they said, did you actually know these are illegal in Thailand? So there's a few countries like Thailand, Japan that you can't legally have Dexies, like ADHD medication.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
It's not crack. Gosh, I'm not taking like legit drugs. I'm taking prescription drugs, guys. But yeah, that was I learned that the day of and I realized if I would have got down and they would have seen that, that could have been a very different story for me. So now wherever I go, if I have prescription drugs, which, you know, I don't really have prescription drugs apart from antibiotics because I have health problems. Every time I go away, I get a parasite. So now, yeah, just make sure you do your research and you know what you're taking in because you could get in big trouble and that wouldn't be bad. Also, vibrators and dildos are another illegal thing in some countries. And I learned this
surely not Thailand.
the digital nomad group. So they had this like big post about like what's the most random thing you've been pulled over for at the airport, or like I've just had this horror story, and like a few of the girls had put that up. So there's certain countries with certain products or things that you can't take and are illegal. So I always do my research now.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fun episode, a bit off topic, but loved it. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you, Ellie, for joining me once again. And we will catch you for next week's episode. Have a great week, guys. Bye.
See ya.
Audience exclusive.